Welcome to the Genius Way Show with your host, Ben Hummell. The aim of this show is to provide education, encouragement, and insights for people who are on their own personal development journeys. As a psychotherapist, teacher, author, and creator of the Genius Way process, Ben will focus on identifying common challenges to living a purposeful life, and will share valuable psychological and spiritual tools to help you make healthy and empowering life changes. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey friends, welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummell, and it's good to be with you this week as we're going to get into the topic of this week, which is the positive idea around negative space. So what I teach in the Genius Way is life skills. I teach life skills around things that are already part of us, that we already kind of like possess, but we never kind of really look at. The Genius Way is an excuse to look at what we already have in so many words. So the life skills that I teach are around, first of all, how to observe certain things in yourself so that you can get in touch with your genius qualities. Then when you can express your genius qualities, the things that you were born with, your existential DNA, basically your creative DNA, when you can express that, that in turn turns into a state of like life fulfillment and purpose and, all the good things that come along with that. So since we already have these things, everybody has a genius. And everybody's genius is a collection of their talents and skills and their leanings and their callings that they were born with. If we all have this, why are we all not experiencing this? Why are we not expressing it? Why do we get into places where we're feeling completely stuck and directionless? Why do we get into that if we already have it? So the weird thing about humans is that they have to kind of learn to be a human. They have to learn, unlike any kind of like animal or plant or whatever, the cat's going to be a cat, the dog's going to be a dog, etc. The acorn's going to be an oak tree. Humans have to learn that. And it's not a given that any particular human being is going to learn it. It's not a given. It's a possibility. And one of the reasons for that, in my opinion, is that making that extra effort, that search for what we already have, is part of the human journey and is part of the personal development journey, the hero's journey, if you will, of a human being. And so with the Genius Way and the Genius Way process, I teach the life skills that allow people to be able to observe what they already have within them. Okay, in a nutshell. So why is this all important? And what is this negative space idea that we're talking about? So if in art, the idea of negative space is basically where, let's say you have a canvas and on some part of the canvas, there's nothing painted, there's nothing drawn. There's just a kind of a blank space. Well, if you look at this painting behind me, there's no negative space here. It's all kind of filled in. But on a different type of painting or photograph, you'll have a lot of blank space where there's nothing going on. Then you'll maybe have an object at some place on the canvas or on the photograph that is, the idea of the negative space is that it doesn't draw your attention so that you can really focus on what's already there, the actual thing that's there. So the idea of negative space is to give room to notice something that's already there, to notice something that is particularly important. Okay, so that's the art world idea of negative space. Now, psychologically, what point of negative space? So I want to just give you a little vignette here. Imagine that it's 500 years ago, and you are one of the jobs during that time, what are we talking about, 1600s, one of the jobs would have been to be a shepherd. Let's say you're a shepherd and that's your job. And what do? You get up, you kind of, take your sheep somewhere in the field or on the side of a mountain, and they're there to eat all day. They're there to eat grass. And let's say, what would you do as a shepherd, sitting there watching your sheep? You probably would sit down under a tree. You'd hear the wind. You hear the noise of the sheep. You'd be looking around for danger, maybe. You'd have your food, in your little backpack or cloth tied up there. You'd have time to like look at the clouds going by and see what they looked like. You could smell what was in the air, whether it's sheep poop or flowers. All your senses would have been working in a way that you would be getting this whole experience. And you would have like this spaciousness in order to kind of live your life and see how you were feeling and doing during the day, right? So, juxtapose that till today. So everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got a TV, computers. It's hard to get away from the bombardment of information, whether we're voluntarily looking at it or whether it's just coming at us from so many different directions, that we no longer have any negative space in our life. We no longer have any spaciousness so that we can see within us what is actually important, what is actually the point of our lives, right? And so we need this negative space, just like the shepherd had it just automatically. We need to develop and create that negative space in our lives on purpose, because it's not going to be given to us in this time period. Okay. So my theory is that, let's talk about the news, for instance. My theory is that biologically and neurologically, we as humans are not yet evolved to the point where we can know all of the terrible things going on all around the world at the same time and make a place for it in our psyche, in our awareness. I believe that still the amount of time between when we were shepherds, metaphorically, and now is very short. And I don't think our brains or our neurology has gotten to the point where we can, with a good measure of detachment, take in all the news that's happening all the way around the world instantaneously 24/7 and be sane, basically, and be healthy. So one of the things that is very important to do as you're trying to create your personal development journey, or whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to create here, whatever you're trying to express, or to get in touch with your genius so that you can live a fulfilling life, we have to deliberately create negative space, meaning we have to create spaciousness for ourselves to just be. And in that spaciousness, the things that are there for us, like our genius qualities, the things that make us happy, the things that make us feel fulfilled, the things that are there for us to express, we'll be able to see them, feel them when they're there, and we'll be able to kind of focus on those things by creating the negative space. So if you're like a news junkie and a doom scroller, let's say, you're not creating very much space for yourself to like know how you feel about something, to know how this is affecting you. I mean, have you ever looked at a news article, something you're passionate about or you're really concerned about? Have you noticed what that does to your system? Okay, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying, have you been able to notice very clearly what it does to you? So I'll give you an example. Not to get into politics of any kind or anything. I am just kind of scrolling sometimes, looking at the news, and I find myself getting really tight and tense and anxious. Okay, and as I'm feeling that anxiety, I'm scrolling more to try and find something that would relieve that anxiety, to read something else that would make me feel better about the situation. Okay. And it's a never ending scrolling escapade because it just keeps feeding that kind of feeling. So that's what I'm aware of when I do the whole doom scrolling or looking for news or, trying to be aware of everything that's going on in the world at all times. And, so what I'm aware of is that state of anxiety. Now, if I give myself spaciousness, enough space or enough negative space to see, oh, wow, that action brings along anxiety with it, then I have the possibility of changing it, of learning how to manage what I look at, how often I look at it, you know, and I can actually do something about my experience of the world because I made enough space by stepping away from it to see how I feel, to see what my actual experience is. Okay. So this week I took a mental health week off from work. I was feeling my empathy starting to lag. I was feeling just a little bit physically drained. And I know by my observance of myself that that's a time to take negative space. So I had a whole week of pretty much unstructured time, no scheduled time. When I felt like laying down, I would lay down. When I felt like walking outside, I would walk outside. I just let myself go from one thing to the next, whatever I felt like doing, with no qualifications, no judgment, no anything, just to take myself out of that, my normal kind of structured time. And so far, it's been feeling really, 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 really good. Really good. And I know I'm going to get back into my structured week, which is pretty scheduled. But this is a really beautiful, the mental health week, the taking space for negative space, not filling it with things, that really, really, allowed me to kind of really settle in and see where I'm at and kind of reset everything. So learning life skills means making space to see how you're experiencing your life and then applying some new skills to kind of change what your experience is now that you can see what it is without making any changes. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's watch a short video here about this topic. And when we come back, we're going to dig in much more deeply about creating negative space.
Why do artists leave empty spaces in their masterpieces? It's called negative space. And in life, it's just as important. We often fill our days with constant noise and activity. But what if we took a moment to unplug? Imagine disconnecting from your phone, stepping away from your to-do list, and simply being present. In these quiet moments, we find beauty in the small things: a bird's song, the rustle of leaves, the warmth of the sun on our skin. Just like in art, it's the spaces between that give our lives depth and meaning. So why not embrace the negative space in your life? Take a walk without your phone. Sit in a park and just listen. Let's give ourselves the gift of noticing the unnoticed, because sometimes the most profound moments come from simply being still. Embrace the beauty of negative space.
Yeah, so the negative space that we want to create in our life is a space for other things to be realized, other things to be understood and gleaned from our life experience, right? So right now, you and I are living in a kind of a consumer-based society. And hopefully you have noticed that unless we have a kind of a routine to declutter our lives, like with physical stuff, the stuff keeps piling up. Even if you don't go out and buy stuff all day long, every day, somehow in this consumer-based society, things accumulate, right? And so if you've noticed that, you absolutely must have a routine of discarding things, giving things to Goodwill, having a yard sale, taking things to the garbage. It just kind of stuff accumulates, and you have to have some method regularly to discard stuff, or else, we become hoarders. There's no room in our houses anymore, right? Things just keep coming in just by default. And so that is very similar to our consciousness. That's just similar to our consciousness as a human being. Every day we have new experiences. We glean something from those experiences, take in ideas, concepts. Some is wisdom, some is based on fear and hurt, and so that's in the form of trauma. But we keep taking things in, and if we never release things, if we don't consistently release some of the aspects of our experiences, the canvas of our life gets kind of filled up with things, and it's all positive space, and there's no negative space. There's no spaciousness to actually see how all these experiences are affecting us and what's remaining and what kind of state we're operating from. So like in the case of trauma, there is, there's kind of like a phenomenon where if somebody's traumatized, like for instance, my wife was traumatized by some experiences early on in her life with having snakes around and really scaring her and kind of really affecting her psychologically. And so we recently encountered a snake in our backyard, and my wife freaked out. She had, huge reaction to it, and a lot of people do. I'm not really thrilled with snakes running around. I'm not going to go and grab them or anything, but, she has some trauma around that. And so the reaction to the snake was larger than, let's say, my son or myself. Okay. And so that kind of the remnants of that traumatic experience are still there. And that would be a positive image, so to speak, on the canvas of her experience. And so when the snake shows up, boom, also the trauma is still there, showing her, oh, this is a scary thing. You need to be afraid. You need to run away. You need to freak out, right? So in the case of trauma, it's an object placed on our canvas that's taking up the negative space, right? It's taking up the spaciousness with which we could see that snake in a new way and see, maybe, is it really a dangerous snake? Is it actually coming after me? Is it trying to get away from me? We would have the spaciousness to see that, if were it not for that piece of trauma that's kind of sitting there in the frame. Okay, so when we're talking about learning life skills, when we're talking about learning how to express our genius qualities, they're there, but they're being covered by other things. Feeling of stuckness, feeling of having no direction, constantly saying to ourselves, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel stuck. The deeply unconscious repeating of the words of something like, oh, I'm a failure, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm an imposter, or I can't do that. All that stuff is laying on top of, kind of layered on top of our genius qualities. And if we don't ever get down to that level where we can see what's actually there in our awareness, which is like our existential gifts, if we don't kind of peel off some of those layers to get down to that other layer where these things exist, where you don't have to believe in them, they're just there, it's just obvious, you'll never get to the place where, I can actually practice my genius qualities, right? So the life skills that I teach in the Genius Way and the Genius Way process help you to peel back some of those layers of conditioning, of how you might be talking to yourself, is self-talk, what you have placed in the frame above your actual genius qualities, right? What are the things that are keeping you from seeing what you already have? It's literally like you have a treasure house of your genius qualities that there's something hiding the door to it. And the life skills of the Genius Way are exactly designed to open that door to that. Okay. And part of that whole effort is negative space, clearing away things that are in the way so that you can actually see what's already there. That's the bottom line. Okay. So anytime you get the chance to disconnect from what you kind of do all day long is a great blessing, and is a way for you to make accessibility to what is deeper in you, so that you can actually change your life, make some kind of change in your life. So part of the reason that people don't take time to acknowledge the negative space or to create negative space is because when they look within, when they start looking deeply at themselves, they see all the positive images. They see the worry, the fear, and the doubt, and the habits. They see all that stuff, and it's like, too much. I can't do that. I can't go through that. But unless you're willing to peel back those layers, you're not going to see what's inside. It's like the artichoke. Underneath there's a heart of the artichoke, and that's the best part, in my opinion. The artichoke heart, okay? You got to peel back all those things that have like even little thorns on the end of them, so all the leaves of the artichoke. So same thing here. If you want to change your life, if you want to have a better experience, less anxious experience, more expressive nature, more expressive and fulfilling life, you got to be willing to go in and look at what's actually sitting on top of it, like a big wet blanket. Okay, because there's something on top of it. If you feel that you're not there yet, there's something on top of it, and it is top of it, and it's definitely self-imposed. That's the hardest thing to acknowledge and to admit. Whatever is sitting on top of your genius ultimately is placed there by you, right? And when you can see that you are actually doing that you are actually putting those things on top of your expressive genius that you were born with, then you're free to make the changes. If it feels like it's imposed from the outside, then you will kind of make the excuse, well, I can't do that because I have to keep doing this same thing. I have to keep going in this way, right? So here's the key. When you're doing that peeling back of layers, when you're doing the peeling back, you are actually doing what you came here to do. Part of getting to your genius qualities is removing the obstacles in your path. Part of getting to your genius qualities is to keep diving deep into however deep you can get to see what's there. And when you see, this feels like it's coming from the outside. It feels like my nature to feel like the imposter, to doubt myself, to think that, I can't get to this point of awakening or freedom or self-expression. When it feels like that, then you're getting somewhere. Okay? These are all the voices that, believe it or not, we all practice every day. Okay? It's an unconscious practice, but it's still a practice. And it keeps going. And the more we practice that, the better we get at it. Conversely, the more you practice peeling away these layers and making different choices, and by all this, I'm saying making more negative space, making more spaciousness. The more you practice that, the better you're going to be at it. And then what you're ultimately going to find is that, there's nothing that I can't do or be or express. There's nothing that's really in the way of me expressing my genius except for my own ideas, my own self-imposed limitations. Okay? Now look, if I'm saying this to you and you're feeling offended by it, He said, Ben, you don't understand. I have this problem, that problem. Yes, I know you have problems. I have problems too. Okay. But when you start to apply yourself and take responsibility for the fact that there is an unconscious practice that you're engaging in that's keeping you kind of stuck in this place, then when you acknowledge that, you can finally start to change it. And that's what this is all about. So using this negative space practice of taking things away so you can see what's already there is how you learn new life skills and how you uncover your genius qualities. So I'm going to share with you a guided visualization after this next commercial, and it'll help you to kind of visualize and contextualize what making negative space looks like. I'll see you on the other side.
Ben Hummell's writing comes from a deep well of experience, practice, and wisdom. The Genius Way teaches you the life skills you need to find your own unique genius. Summoning Genius helps readers to turn a midlife crisis into an opportunity for personal growth. You can find Ben's books on thegeniusway.com, Amazon, and most online booksellers.
Close your eyes and take a deep breath in and then deeply exhale. Imagine that you're standing in front of a painting that you've been creating for a very long time. This is a painting of your life up until this point. In it, you can see all of the major and minor characters, issues, and circumstances that you've experienced so far. They are all there. Now imagine that in your hand is a paintbrush that has the magical power to remove anything that no longer belongs in a representation of your life. And you can do so just by passing the paintbrush in front of your painting. Take a moment to use this magical brush for this purpose now, if you choose to do so. See how this brush removes whatever does not serve you anymore, and see how it makes negative space in your painting. How does it feel to have more space around the things that are left on the canvas? Now that you've cleared away some space, you're able to see what's left there more clearly. The negative space allows you to focus on what is currently important to you and see it in greater detail. Find something on your canvas and take a close look at what it is. What do you see? What else can you notice about this image now that you've made more space around it? Allow this new detail to reveal an important secret to you about yourself and your genius qualities. What does it tell you? Remember that you can take this secret with you and use it as vital information for your life direction and life decisions. Remember that you've been revealed this secret because you've made enough space for it to be shown to you. And now, with this experience fully intact in your awareness, and when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into this room. So how has that guided visual for you? Did this bring this idea a little bit more into focus for you? So what are the benefits also of creating negative space in your life, of creating spaciousness? What are the benefits? So one thing right off the bat is that it kind of works directly on your nervous system. So if you ever are, if you're somebody that feels anxious from time to time or a lot, creating negative space and taking the time to create openness in your life, meaning opening up your schedule so you're kind of doing the shepherd thing, like we were talking about before, that works directly on your nervous system. Your nervous system doesn't have to work during that time. It doesn't have to defend itself. It doesn't have to be cautious. It doesn't have to be on guard. It doesn't have to necessarily socialize. It can just be free to just be what it is. And, you're living in the US, most likely watching this. We need our nervous systems to be gently taken care of as much as possible, because we live such busy lives and there are so many stressors on us that we really need to create that practice around that. So what does it look like? What does it look like to create a practice of creating negative space, spaciousness around ourselves? Certainly something like meditation. Okay. So what do I mean by meditation? By meditation is just simply giving yourself a time, an allotted amount of time to just let go and stop trying to think, stop trying to produce, stop trying to create something, just to let go and just be. That's a lot harder than you think it is. Okay. If you've ever tried to meditate, you'll see your mind is kind of rattling, yakking, talking. Your concerns are all coming up, and meanwhile, when you meditate, you realize that, that stuff is going on all the time. And we just don't know it because we're distracting ourselves with all this activity all the time. I had a very interesting experience. I've been a long time meditator. And at this point, in the past, I had been meditating, I don't know, for 20 years or something, let's say. I mean, really a lot, like at least for like 2 hours a day. Okay. And I went and did this sensory deprivation tank, like a floating tank with salt water in it. And I thought, this is going to be great. This is amazing. I love to just be in this kind of, atmosphere where I don't have to do anything, really let go. And I got in there and I was floating and my mind was so loud. It was so crazy. And I'm like, wow, I thought I was this really advanced meditator and I'm in this place and my mind is just like talking and all these ideas and everything. It took a while to really let go. So meditation is literally creating that negative space. It's creating that openness around yourself to just be and without any other agenda. Okay. So there's a ton of different meditation techniques and different ways you can do it. But one of the things that I suggest, find a place in your house that is the least distracting place you can get, the quietest, most comfortable place, and go there and just connect to your breath. Close your eyes and connect to your breath. Or go outside, someplace in your yard, or in your neighborhood, or in your town, someplace where you will have the least amount of distractions. And just kind of sit there, just sit with no other agenda than to just let go of your normal kind of everyday routine. Just connect to your breath, going in and out. That's a good thing to do. Just follow your breath. Let it rise and fall. See the thoughts there. Let them kind of just come and go. If you see yourself grabbing onto a thought or a feeling, come back to your breath. And just, by doing that, you're going to create a lot of space within yourself to kind of actualize some of the things that I've been talking about in this show. Okay? So I hope this makes sense to you, and I hope you got something out of this today. What we're going to do now is take a short commercial break. And on the other side of that, I'm going to come back with some words of inspiration to send you on your way.
Hi, I'm Kelly Melissa Reinhart, host of Make Mental Health Matter. Join me on Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the Achieve TV network right here on E360 TV.
For our psychological and spiritual well-being, it's important to understand the necessity of creating inner spaciousness as a daily practice. As we cultivate our interiority by paying close attention to what's on the surface of our awareness, we can begin to create more and more space to see into the depths of our being for our innate genius qualities and gifts. Taking the time to unplug from our schedules for the explicit purpose of seeing ourselves from a more relaxed and calm space can pay great dividends on your personal life journey. And that's our show for this week. I'm really glad to have spent this time with you, and was really happy to talk to you about creative negative space in your life. And I hopefully you got a lot out of this too. So here it is. Here's your self-inquiry journal prompt for this week. So it is: when, where, and how can I commit to creating negative space in my life? Okay? When, where, and how can I commit to creating negative space in my life? Okay, good. All right, friends, great to see you. And until next week, stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummell. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummell on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummell.